Last night at midnight, key elements of the Patriot Act collapsed. Rand Paul is the most outspoken critic of the law, which he says allows illegal spying on Americans.
People say, how will we protect ourselves without these programs? What about using the Constitution? What about using judicial warrants? The Sonarif boy, the Boston bomber, they say, how will we look at his phone records? Get a warrant.
Joining me now is Lawrence Lessig, political activist and Harvard law professor. Lawrence, good to see you.
Great to be here.
So Mitch McConnell calls you on the phone, leader of the Senate, says, I'm flummoxed, Lawrence. I need help. Craft me a bill that allows us to protect the people of this country, but also protects their privacy. Can you do it?
Well, I would start with the way Rand Paul is talking about it. I want to focus on how we target particular people, particular activities that give rise that a judge would look at and say there's a reason to get a search warrant to look at these people and then look at them. Right now, the problem is we don't have any clear sense of exactly how that balance is being drawn. And so I think it's very important to put pressure on the NSA to identify in a more specific way how they're going to do it.
You know, both things I want to talk to you about tonight, my sense is, and you may disagree, we'll find out in a minute, intellectually people care deeply about their privacy rights, but in terms of a visceral connection to this, it's economy, it's health care, it's taxes, and then my privacy, I mean, rejecting, what's the old Benjamin Franklin tired line, those who sacrifice liberty for security deserve neither, whatever it is, something like that. Since 9/11, I know it's going down a little bit, that's where the American people are, isn't it?
Well, I think that most Americans have a false choice in their mind. Either we protect privacy or we are facing terrorists. And I think part of what Rand Paul is doing, and this is really important, is helping to educate people about the fact that it isn't an either-or choice. There are ways that we could be building the infrastructure of surveillance that actually would be protecting privacy in a very fundamental way, but give the government a better opportunity to identify risks that they need to go after. And we need to be pushing the government to do that rather than this very simple binary choice of, well, we're either going to have terrorists or we're going to have protection of privacy.
Can we switch gears to the subject? Was the last time you and I spoke when you called into Boston Public Radio. At that point, you were not just talking the talk, you were literally walking the walk.
Right.
Were you not walking across all of New Hampshire?
That's right.
What, 180 miles or some such thing?
In January.
That was the New Hampshire Rebellion, right?
That's right.
And the notion was, correct me if I'm wrong, to inspire activists in New Hampshire to press the candidates over the next year to say, what are you going to do about money owning, legal corruption, I think as you call it, money owning American politics? Is anybody following your lead?
Oh, activists in New Hampshire is called citizens because all of them are deluged with these presidential candidates in there talking about whatever issues they want to talk about. And yes, this has been incredibly successful in New Hampshire. We've spent the last 3 years organizing people in New Hampshire to raise this issue on the right and on the left. And especially on the right, there's been an enormous response by people, candidates, Lindsey Graham among the most outspoken.
Today,
saying that this system is just crazy. Lindsey Graham said it's outrageous that you have to go to 50 families in America to be elected president of the United States. So I think there's a real sense, especially among conservatives in New Hampshire, that this system is crazy. And they want to press the candidates to say, what are you going to do about it?
I think I've read you saying that the exclusion of people without deep pockets is analogous to the exclusion of blacks from the right to vote. I have you right, correct?
That's right, exactly right.
How do you make that?
Well, you know, in the old South, in Texas, for example, they used to have a white primary before they got to the general election. So only whites got to vote in the white primary. They picked the candidates that the rest of Texas got to vote among. That's basically the same for our system today. It's not a white primary, it's a green primary. You have this system, this process, where we select the candidates on the basis of who raises the most money or who raises money to be credible, but they're not raising money from all of us. They're raising money from the tiniest fraction of the 1% of us. And so that excludes the average American from this first stage of the election process in a way that fundamentally affects what Congress cares about and what Congress does.
Okay, but the Supreme Court acted Citizens United, basically allowing shorthand, unlimited contributions from unions, corporations, individuals. How do you fix this? Let's assume that you have these candidates responding to your activists in New Hampshire and they pay enough attention to say, okay, tell me how to fix it and I'll do it. How do they fix it?
Well, the thing is to focus on what is the real problem. Look, the day before Citizens United was decided, it's not as if we had a democracy that was just humming along perfectly. This democracy was already broken. Citizens United may have shot the body, but the body was already cold because before Citizens United, we already had a system where the tiniest fraction of the 1% was funding the elections, and candidates were spending 30 to 70% of their time raising money from that tiny fraction of the 1%.
Okay, so fix it.
So you change that by changing the way you fund elections. And there's been all sorts of proposals. In New Hampshire, there's a Republican, Jim Rubens, who's proposed the idea of giving every voter a $50 voucher that they can use to fund campaigns, so that you fund from the bottom up, so that candidates are raising money from many, many of us rather than from the 0.02% of us, and thereby you make a system where they're responsive to more of us rather than just responsive to
But
the
that
funders.
depends on people who are benefiting from the broken system agreeing to fix that system, does it not?
Well, in part, but nobody in Congress likes the system. Everybody hates the idea of going to Congress. You think you're going there to represent your constituents. You're going there to be low-paid telemarketers. You're spending all your time calling people, raising money.
Yeah, but it's incumbent protection, Lawrence Lessig. Even if they hate it, the system allows them to ensure that, 95% of the circumstances, anybody who runs against them can't raise enough dough to really challenge them.
That's why we've got to raise pressure on incumbents to tell them that your incumbency is not protected if you're not on the side of reform. And we've got to get more people to take that up. Now, look, most people look at this and they say, it's hopeless. There's no reason to take this up. We did a poll in the United States last year. We found 96% of Americans said it was important to reduce the influence of money in politics, but 91% said it wasn't possible. So this is the politics of resignation. But if we give people a sense that there's something they can do, and that's what's happening in New Hampshire, a sense that candidates will respond to it, we think they will create incredible pressure on them to do something, and then they will do something.
We only have a minute left. You're not an amend the Constitution kind of guy, are you, or are you? Because
No.
that's one way you could undo Citizens United,
Right.
even though you say that's not the sole problem.
My first step is to change the way we fund elections, and Congress could do that tomorrow with a statute. Now, I also support the convention process, the Article 5 convention process, not a constitutional convention, but a process.
What's the Article 5 process?
Well, basically, the states say we want a chance to present our constitutional amendments to Congress, and Congress can send them out to the states.
Was that
to be ratified.
2/3 of the states who have to
Have
vote
to
for
do that. That's
Isn't
right.
that the process that your colleague Larry Tribe once said makes everything up for grabs?
Yeah, I think, with all respect, due respect to my colleague, that's a misunderstanding of this process. This process is just a way to get around Congress in proposing amendments to the Constitution. Now, again, my view is the first step we've got to take is to change the way we fund elections, but I think in the long run, we're going to have to deal with the problems of how the Constitution doesn't respect the equality of citizens.
People want to find out about the rebellion. Where do they go?
NHRebellion.org.
And they get to walk across New Hampshire
You can
in
walk on July
January
4th.
14th.
So we'll probably have about 1,000 people
Really?
walking in January, in
Terrific.
July, and then in January we'll have many, many more.
Lawrence, good luck. Thank
Great
you so
to see
much.
you.
Lawrence Lessig, really appreciate it.